Welcome to the Nuclear Power Institute's The Path of Most Persistent podcast. The podcast highlighting individual stories of persistence, community outreach, and inspiration to support the continuing and emerging nuclear science and technology needs across the state of Texas. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed today's podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Path of Most Persistent. Today is Tuesday, July 20th, and we are meeting today with the Clean SMARTS Masterclass Competition winner. So we have with us today Mr. Arian Gutierrez, our winner. Woohoo! We have with us his mother, Mrs. Ana Garcia, and we have his teacher, his sponsor, Mrs. Maria Isabel Reyna. So thank you so much for joining us today. And let's start off with Miss Reyna. Miss Reyna, as an STEM educator, you have all sorts of opportunities coming to you. I know your calendar is full of different professional developments that you have to choose from, and you have to actually pick and choose because there's just so much to offer out there. So what is it about Clean SMARTS that stood out to you that made you want to do this with your students?
At the beginning of the school year, knowing that we were going to be in an online program, virtual instruction, I was worried about how we were going to be progressing with the science fair. And being such an advocate for science fair and science projects, when the proposal came in, I researched it. And one of the things that stood out was the videos that offered a variety of opportunities for our kids to learn about. So when we did the Clean SMARTS and when I was researching, I really liked the videos and the motivation and the instructions and the guidance that it provided. So I knew for sure that that was going to be the foundation for my kids so that they would have an idea as to where to begin exploring their researches. I know that every year I struggle with my students in saying, well, Miss, I have an idea, but I don't know if it can become a reality. It's difficult for me, Miss, because I don't have the resources. I don't know how to do this, or I'm afraid. I've done summer trainings in robotics. I've done summer training in engineering, but I just get to see the surface of it. I don't get to see the details of it and how to go about it. And so when we started with the Clean SMARTS videos and the engineering design process, I started noticing my kids' little lights turning on and saying, well, you know what? I have this idea and this says that I can do it. So now if I want to do it this way, what's my next step? So that's how I knew that Clean SMARTS and the WIT Junior program was going to be of a great asset to our students.
So as far as the Clean SMARTS Masterclass, so that's a course that, and it was awesome that every single one of your students earned the certificate of completion. Now, not all of them, some of them, a handful of them, entered into the competition. But even those who did not enter into the competition, they still participated. I know you had a dynamic going on that were some students entered and other people were support. They were more like of a peer review and a cheerleader. So can you tell us a bit about, elaborate on the skill set that they gained as a competitor and as a collaborator, right? The two sides and the dynamics and how you think that affected your students?
We work as a team. I do allow kids to do team projects, but I like them to focus on individual projects. If there is an opportunity for them to collaborate together, I do allow them. The only thing is that when you're creating an engineer project or when you're designing something, I'd like for my kids to take ownership and be proud about it. I knew that, for example, in Arian's case, when Arian came up with that idea, there was a gentleman, another partner that wanted to partner up with him, but thinking about it, I knew that it was his idea. So I wanted him to take ownership. At the same token, for the other students, when they came up with their own ideas, I wanted them to take ownership of it. So one of the things that we would do is we would set up a discussion board where, okay, this is Arian's idea. What do you think about it? What do you recommend? Where, does he need any guidance? Do you feel that he should change anything? And I'd like for my kids to see what other kids are doing and be motivated with it. Clean SMARTS provided a big guidance itself, and the resources, the emails that are provided at the end, the phone numbers, the contact information that Clean SMARTS provides gives the kids a big open door for them, because they don't only rely on Ms. Reyna or they don't rely on their peers within the classroom, but they also have outside resources that they can utilize in order for them to continue with this idea, that at one point they believed that it was not possible.
So, Ms. Reyna, I have a question for you, and this is a two-part question, if you don't mind. Okay. So, it is clear that you are an exceptional educator, and again, we thank you for your collaboration and your partnership with NPI. But my question to you is, as much as it is clear, again, that you love what you do, you not only are an exemplary professional, but you have a true passion for what you do. It comes across that way. Mm-hmm. Even just recently getting to know you and meeting you, it's very clear because you can feel it. When you just over our Zoom interview here, I can feel your enthusiasm. But my question to you is, first of all, how is it that you decided to become an educator? Did you always know? What was it that led you down the path to become an educator? And the second part to that is, how do you maintain that passion, that enthusiasm that takes so much literal energy to maintain the love of what you do, but you do it in such a passionate way? So that two-part question, if you don't mind.
Let me start with the long story, making it short. I used to be a executive director for a student loan agency. I worked there for many years. Many of you don't know, but I had trouble conceiving children. So I have an only child. After almost 5 years of infertility treatments, I was able to conceive a child. So my life and my husband's lives revolved around our son. He's now 26. He's a cop. He did not pursue education, but when he was in elementary, we were at our church, and I clearly heard him praying that he wanted his mom to be part of his life. Because being a banker, I was an executive director. I traveled the majority of the month. If I was at home 1 or 2 weekends, was very little time that I would spend at home. That hurt my feelings. And that night I told my husband, you know what? I don't want to work anymore. I want to become a housewife. So we did everything possible. And I said, I don't care if we have to start from scratch. So my husband's like, I will support you 100%. The next morning I turned in my resignation. My boss refused for me to leave. So they hired me as an independent contractor, and I worked from home for about 6 or 7 months, but the job was a little difficult. So after trying to do the from home, and always on virtual meetings and net, as they used to call them, net meetings. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term, but I used to do the net meetings from home. I told my boss, you know what? No, I need to become a parent. I need to be home, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. So I started volunteering at the school where my son was going to. And there I would help him out, and they would see that I was very knowledgeable with computers and technology and so forth, so on. So the principal says, Ms. Reyna, you need to apply for a job at La Jolla ISD. You would get hired on the spot. So I don't know what she did, but she got me an interview. So I completed an application. I went to an interview, and I began my journey with La Jolla ISD as a executive director secretary for curriculum and evaluation. I was there for 6 years, and my boss was the one that said, you know what, Reyna, you need to get a teaching degree. You're really good at math. You're really good at things. You need to get a teaching degree. I went and I challenged the test, and I passed it right away. He's like, you need to get a job. So I interviewed at all the middle schools, and I was very blessed because I was offered a job from all of them. I had to choose one. So I chose Lorenzo de Zavala, one, because that's where my son attended, and two, because it was very close to my house. And I started as a math teacher. I did math for 2 years. Then from there, they moved me into an NCRI position where I would teach the kids that would come from Mexico. I did math and for them. And then all of a sudden, my principal says, you know what, Isabel, we need a science teacher. Will you be willing to move to science? And science had never been my forte. Math has always been my strong. So I was like, I don't know that I want to do science. But I said, you know what, miss, if you give me the opportunity several years in science, I will take it. I just don't want to be in science for 1 year and then move me back to math. And she's like, that's a deal. Let's see. Well, I went in full blown. And when I started working in science my first year, I had a student that advanced all the way to state in his science fair project. We didn't win at the state level, but it was an amazing experience. And I've always had the love for kids. And my church, I've always served as I've served as a youth leader, as a GAs, the Girls in Action. And I guess because the wanting to be a mother, wanting to have more than one kid, I wanted a whole baseball team, but God had other plans for me, so I'm okay with that. Now I have 3 wonderful grandchildren that I adore, and Arian can attest to this. When they come into my classroom, that's the first thing that I tell them. I embrace them as my kids, and I become a monster teacher. Nobody messes with my kids because they're my kids. So I've always loved what I do. And I've discovered throughout the years, I've discovered that science and the competitions, I'm very competitive, and they can tell you, we compete with everything in school. They work hard for their scores. I like to always be on top, and they see that. And somehow we're able to connect in that way where we see each other, and the kids produce for me. And I like the fact that they're willing to work with me. And Arian can attest to this. When he came up with the idea, he was a little hesitant about it. And I was like, no, Arian, we can do this. And I would do the same thing with all my kids and all my students. We had about 8 kids that advanced to regionals, and it was a difficult task juggling because everything being virtual, but it's something that I enjoy. And like I was telling Gian this morning, Gian, my schedule is full. This summer, I went all out. I wanted to prepare myself for the near future, and I see, where things are going, and I want to be able to continue to feed those kids, because if you affect one life at a time, it's a big difference, especially here in the Valley, that we lack so many resources. That if we can give them a little something and turn that little light on, and they can see that there is a future and what they've dreamed about, that even though they had put it in the back of their mind thinking, no, this is not going to work, it does work as long as they put an effort on it and you open the doors for them. Hopefully I've answered both questions.
You did, and I'll turn it back over to Gianna, but I'm just going to say, as a woman, a mother, as a professional, I have so much admiration for you, and thank you for saying yes, and thank you for pivoting throughout your life, because you're one of those people clearly that makes every situation, every obstacle, something that you've made into a positive. So thank you so much for your resilience and your persistence. It's beautiful.
We have to always see our glasses half full.
Absolutely. That's why we persist.
Amen.
Next up, we have Arian Gutierrez, our winner. Woohoo! So he is a middle school student there at Lorenzo de Zavala. And Arian, will you please start off by telling us, what did you enjoy most about the Clean SMARTS Masterclass?
What I enjoyed most about the Clean SMARTS Masterclass is that it taught us different things involving STEM, such as mechanical engineering and technology, and not many students know what they are doing and what they do. Being able to understand that technology can do for our future was something that influenced me to want to continue my path in engineering.
So how did the course influence your project and your thought process?
Like I said earlier, it taught me different types of engineering. So I used those skills to design and create the full body sanitizing machine. Due to our pandemic and what we were all experiencing, my concerns were the health and the future of not just my family, but for the rest of our community. This is what was my biggest influence for my project.
So for the audience, just to give you a bit of a background, Arian and everyone here is from the Rio Grande Valley. So that's in the deep southern Texas, right? So we're a border community. I think the nearest bridge from you guys is what, 30 minutes, right? The Perlitas Bridge. So we're talking about right there, really close to the border. And the COVID cases are high. And right now, in fact, I was just talking with Ms. Garcia, who's Arian's father, who is in the medical profession. And right now they have a spike in COVID cases. And so they're going back to, they're closing up again because of it. And so this was a big, it's a big situation that's influencing the community. And so quite a few of the projects that came out of it was actually COVID related. Ms. Garcia, would you like to speak to this?
I'm going back to what you were saying as far as the spikes. Yes, we're like 5 minutes away from the actual bridge crossing over to Mexico. So we do see a lot of the cases of the illegals coming in. And that has a lot to do with the spikes that we have been seeing lately, literally like from the past 2 weeks. So as far as being in lockdown, my husband has us in lockdown. We're not so much in lockdown because it's been mandated or anything, but my husband's is the one that you don't need to go anywhere. You make me the list. I'll go grocery shopping. I'll go do this, that, because of the spikes. And we are, all vaccinated except my little one. He's 11, but he's the only one that isn't vaccinated. But even like that, we do try, to take care of ourselves with the mask and stuff. And so Arian has always been one of those germophobics, I can say, I guess, like his dad. He's becoming like his dad, where wash your hands and Germic's here and Germic's there. And we have a little table outside of his door, and he has Lysol and he has wipes and he has everything there, where he's the one that helps me wipe down the house. But that, I think it's something that really hit him hard, I guess, because they were out of school for the entire year. And doing this project, and researching the background of it, and him asking, Mom, is this ever going to end? And Mom, what are we going to do? That is what really, really influenced him the most. And I guess seeing the little scare that everybody had, every once in a while, and then we had a little like plateauing of the cases, and then we, oh, it's going to go away, and then it spiked up again. So I think a lot of that opened the eyes to a lot of our young kids, all these children that are out there like wanting to do something different. And so that has not only changed Arian's mindset, but it's changed like his maturity level as well.
So Arian, I have a question for you. So first of all, can you move a little bit to your, I don't know, right? What is that behind you that I see? Is that a poster of some sort?
Yeah, it's the banner that I got for winning the competition.
So hey, listen. So did you like all those banners? We tried to we tried to make that day very special for you because again, you were the first. We were so proud of your efforts, and we hope you felt the excitement we had for you. So I'm glad to see that's in your room, huh?
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
It looks very cool. Thank you very much. So we're going to make sure to catch a little snapshot of this picture so that we can use it later, because you're a perfect student to be on our posters. But Arian, because of some of the comments that your mom just made, I have a question for you. And this is about persisting, right? Staying strong, overcoming obstacles. And like we've just been talking about COVID, that's a huge obstacle for young people, right? And I know some young people are dealing with it one way, some are dealing with it another way, some in between. But for you, for your challenges, and you don't have to talk about some of the specific difficulties, but can you talk about how you work through them, how you just stay positive and you stay focused and you're still able to maintain your grades and maintain just a healthy way of living? Because I know it can only be tough for everyone, but especially young people. Can you talk about what you're doing to stay positive and to stay focused?
Well, what kept me going was the support of my family and my teachers. They motivated me to keep going even before I was going to give up. As I juggled not only this very time-consuming project, but I am also in band where I competed in different topics. But I also play soccer for an outside league, and of course, my regular AP classes were a must. Therefore, giving up was always a doubt because my workload was heavy. However, my parents do not believe in giving up and always instilled in me to keep going forward.
That's amazing, and that's so commendable that you were able to do that, because not everybody has that same kind of resilience. So I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy that you have that kind of support at home through your parents.
Right. So Arian, I know Ms. Reyna was telling us earlier a little bit about how you guys came together as a group. And so you had feedback from your classmates as well as them cheering you on. So how did it feel to have the support of your classmates, having them review and support you and cheer you on?
When I realized that my peers' feedbacks impacted them as much as this project impacted me, I realized that they felt the same as I did throughout this pandemic. It also gave me a sense of more responsibility, knowing that they were looking up to me.
So we're already getting ready for next year's project. So how are you looking at that? Are you ready? Are you going to get excited? Are you going to enter next year's project?
Yes, it's going to be challenging going against students who also want to win the competition and represent their schools as well. But in a sense, it makes me become more competitive and to try harder. Not knowing what the future holds for us as students, my project will, however, to be either in engineering or in technology.
Well, congratulations and thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing your project next year and to seeing everything that you produce. Mrs. Garcia is Arian's mom. And so from a parent's perspective, Ms. Garcia, how did the Clean SMARTS Masterclass competition process from the designing of his project to submitting it influence Arian?
Like I said earlier, I think the pandemic itself and him being so young and having an extreme change from being live in school to virtual, he kept asking like, Mom, what are we going to do to go back to school? And what do we have to do, sweetheart? I mean, this is not going to stop me, anytime soon. I mean, we would just have gotten into it. So I think like him researching and him thinking about what can I do to go back to school? What can I do to go see my classmates or even have our friends and families come around the house because we weren't allowed to have anybody at home, So I think that influenced a lot of his mindset of, wanting to move forward and just figuring out. First, he had something about a coding that he wanted to do where, about a QR code. And then from there, I guess the pandemic just hit its, striked up really, really high. And that's where he said, you know what, Mom, we need to go back to school. I'm thinking about like a metal detector, like they have at the airports, but it's not like a metal detector, it's going to sanitize. And so, and we started thinking, I'm like, okay, how is this going to happen? How is it going to sanitize you? Well, like, you're just going to go, how when you go to hot places and it's really hot, they have a little mist, like something like that. And I was like, okay, mijo, well, yeah, that's going to work. You know what? That might work. Maybe the schools can project some type of, I don't know, 3D something where the kids walk in and get sprayed and, you can go back to school. So he was very excited about moving forward in that way. So I knew that, it was a positive outcome and I knew he just needed that little push. He needed that motivation. Being an educator myself and doing virtual, it was very hard for me. And all honesty was to sit there and say, okay, mijo, let's research this, let's do this. So Ms. Reyna played a humongous part in walking him through it and motivating him doing and giving him some research advice and websites and things like that, so he could look more into what actually the outcome was going to be of that project. So I just think him wanting to go back to school is like the biggest influence ever in this project, was he had to get something done.
Ms. Garcia, I would like to ask you a follow-up question. And you mentioned that you're an educator yourself. Mm-hmm. So for me, I have always told people that I strongly believe in my situation that being an educator has made me a better parent, and being a parent has made me a better educator. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering for you, what have you learned on both sides of that? What have you learned as an educator that helps you in parenting? And what have you learned in parenting that has helped you in educating?
Well, I'm sorry, excuse me. We know that as parents, we always want the best for our kids, right? And I know that I am very hard on my kids. I have Arian 12 and he has a younger sibling 11. And I think the biggest thing that I've ever learned has been through Arian. As a parent, we push and we push and we push. And I had a very bad habit of I guess it was me, and this was me growing up. I didn't have the help of my parents because they didn't speak English. I didn't speak Spanish. Spanish to me is my second language, actually, because I was raised in Dallas. So it was very hard for my parents to jump in and help me with any type of my homework. So it was always just me pushing myself forward. I never was satisfied with a B. I always pushed myself. I had to get an A. There had to be some type of extra credit that I had to do to get that A. And I think I forward that over to Arian as my oldest. And I wouldn't allow him to give up, and I would push him and push him, and he would tell me, his dad would tell him, it's a 70, it's okay. It's an 80, it's okay. As long as you pass with an 85. And I would be like, no, sir, he needs an A. He needs to push that A. Don't tell him that. And I learned the hard way. I really did learn the hard way, because when he entered third grade as their testing grade level, a lot of pressure was put on him by me. And so I learned his anxiety, started developing. He started getting a lot nervous around any weekly assessments that they would have in school. So when the teacher came and told me, Ms. Garcia, I think you need to lay off a little bit. Like, Arian is super smart. He's gonna do this on his own. He's the one that participates the most. He gets very good grades, but he is very, very scared of not passing, because he says, my mom wants me to pass. She was the one that opened my eyes, and I was like, you know what? That's true. Like, I need to stop being that. He needs to be himself. So as a parent, I learned that my kids are my kids, and they are both very different. They're very distinct. My little one is nothing but sports. Arian is nothing but science and history and technology, and very different. So whatever they do is because they love to do it, and they're motivated to do it on their own. And as a parent, and I speak for my husband and I, we do nothing but support them and push them forward. And one rule we do have is you never give up. So however hard the load is, that's what we are there for, to back them up and help them through it. But you have to see to the end. So that's something that as a parent, I learned from Arian. And as an educator, I'm the opposite. As an educator, because a lot of these kids, we are in a very low economic area. A lot of these kids don't get that help that I didn't get from my parents, because they are just working class parents. We're just trying to strive to get through. So I see myself as a very strong teacher, a very strict teacher, very happy and very fun teacher. But I try to open up their eyes and make sure that they know that they can become more than what is their mindset is, what they see at home. Just getting through school, getting through high school, because they have to work. And so as an educator, and at a young age, because I am at the elementary level, I would, that's one of my main priorities, is to have opened their eyes and let them see that anything new that they can accomplish can become something bigger, and not just what is set at their mindset because of what they see at home. So I think those are two very important things that I've learned along the way.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And as painful as some of that is, and again, my heart goes out to you, because I too understand exactly where you're coming from as a parent. But I think for Arian, and I hope, Arian, you recognize, and you can also appreciate your parents struggle with that. And as painful as that was for you in some respects, because our parents learn as we do sometimes, but how wonderful that your mom, and I'm sure your dad too, that they're able to talk to you about that they they didn't realize something and they realized it, and they're trying to correct for you, or adjust for you, maybe not correct, but adjust for you. And that's a beautiful thing, that they're able to communicate that way with you. And what a wonderful lesson that you're learning from them, and that they're learning from you. So to me, as an observer and an educator and as a parent, thank you for sharing that, because that's something that we can all learn in every respect. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Mrs. Garcia, how has winning the competition affected Arian as an individual, right? And how did it affect you guys as a family?
I think in a way that it affected Arian was, well, it didn't hit him right away. I think it didn't hit him until maybe a couple of weeks ago, where I guess where he just started asking for what he wanted for school next year and stuff like that. And I would tell him like, mijo, let's sit down and let's think of, are we going to go back? Are we not going back? Let's, figure out what is it that you are going to need. And he's always asked me for a laptop, for a while. And then we were like, okay, we need to, let's just wait. If we're going to go back, if we're not going to go back, then yeah, we'll get you a laptop because I need mine back. Because he was always using mine for class and I'm like with my little iPad and stuff like that. But something that I think that has, I guess, like I've always said, just opened his eyes to a lot more than what he can do. It's not, this project and this competition was not his limits. He is actually in another competition with the same exact project. And so he's laid back about it because he takes everything like very calm until he gets a result. But I think that that's something that has opened his mind up with that there's no limit to what he can do. And so it has influenced him a lot, the actual winning of it. And it also has impacted him as far as, receiving that recognition and understanding. Like I tell him, Arian, you made a record, like, has it like even hit you, mom? It was just a project. Yes, it was just a project, sweetheart, but that it was from middle school to high school. Like you beat high school students. And like I try to get him to see that. And okay, mom, you're getting too excited. Like, so it hasn't really, I don't think it really has sunk in yet, but he knows that this has had a big impact on him. And I know that he's, as you see also in the background, he loves NASCAR. So he's always watching NASCAR races and he says, Mom, I'm going to be a NASCAR driver. And I'm, sweetheart, okay, you need a backup plan. Okay. I understand what you like, but you need a backup plan. He's like, no, Mom, but I want to be a NASCAR driver, but I want to create my own car and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, now we're talking. Now you can do it. But I mean, things that his mind has opened up to so much that he wants to do or wants to try, engineering wise, technology wise. His dad is a science lover, his dad is a history lover, and they're always thinking about things that, putting together stuff. And so I think this project overall has opened up his mind as far as what he's going to do. Like, this is just a baby project. He's got to go higher. He's got to do something bigger than this year. So he knows that. Like I always tell him, like, you can't, once you start on something and you've accomplished it, there's no stepping down. It's got to go bigger and it's got to go bigger because you know that you can do it. So that has impacted him in a way and winning first place and stuff. And as far as the family, I think I can see it more in his little brother. His little brother, like, we'll have dinner and his little brother they start talking about things that they're going to invent and things that they're going to try doing together. And his little brother will, have an idea. And then Arian would be like, yeah, but what do you think if we can do it this way? And so I think in some mindset, his little brother has kind of started growing in that technology and engineering sense because he didn't have it before. So it just started after Arian. So I think those are the two things that has impacted us. And as far as like money wise, it has taught Arian a lesson because he already had a list of everything he was going to waste on with his little check and stuff. And his dad would tell him, no, papito, like, let's learning what a budget is. And so he now knows, like, you got to leave some savings. You got to get what you want to get, but you always have to have a savings. You always have to have a backup. And I think that has been something that both my husband and I have kind of enforced them since last year. They have their own little debit card from an application. And so they get their allowance through that debit card. And so we go to the store and, Mom, can I get erasable pens? Because Arian loves erasable pens. And can I get erasable pens? Sweetheart, you got your money, but is it something you need? Or is it just something you want? And so now they hear that repetition and, Mom, can I get this? Now that he has his money in his account, can I get this? Is it something you need? Or is it something you want? And so I think that's something that kind of has impacted Arian the most, and as our family is, his motivation and the influencing of his little brother. So we'll see how far that goes.
So Arian, you love NASCAR, right? Who's your favorite driver?
Yes. I would say Chase Elliott, the driver of the number 9.
Okay, awesome. So what got you into NASCAR? I'm really curious in wanting to create your own car.
Well, at first I started watching because of the crashes. That's a little bit weird. And then I started watching more races, and I saw how competitive it was. And from there on, I started watching more. I started understanding more, and then I just fell in love with the sport.
That's awesome. My favorite is Dale Earnhardt Jr. I love watching him. So what are you wanting to be a mechanical engineer? Is that the current path that you're thinking about?
Well, yeah, that's one of the ideas, but the main one for me is to work somewhere around technology wise.
Well, I wish you the best of luck in pursuing that. I know that you'll be able to accomplish a lot of things, especially seeing the project that you created and you actually prototyped for your submission for the Clean SMARTS Masterclass. So I believe in you, and I think you'll go pretty far if you stick to it.
Thank you.
And no doubt, whenever you're coming to A&M for your orientation in the future, we'll help you figure that out too, sir, just so you know.
And they do have a race car. I don't know if it's a student organization, but they build their own race car here at A&M. So something to look forward to there.
So yes, there's a lot of technology involved in cars, right? Because a lot of them are electrical. And so all the system checks and all that, especially, in the pit, they do all sorts of stuff to make it, a lot of technology there. Mrs. Garcia, how did winning change the way, and Ariane, maybe you can speak a little bit. How did winning change the way your community, extended family, and friends see you or see him?
I think more within the community, it's I can just say like maybe more around our neighbors and stuff. Our neighbors have always said, he's like super smart, and we have a neighbor in particular where every time he sees him, he's all like I know you're gonna do something more, like you're my boy, Ariane, and this and that. So he likes that attention. And as far as our family, we actually had a nephew come down from Michigan, Holland, Michigan, and he came to visit us yesterday or the day before. And he also was telling him like, Ariane, we saw you all the way over there. Like, how does it feel, mijo? And what are you going to do with that money? You're going to give us some and this and that or whatever. So, and Ariane was, I don't know, like I said before, Ariane, it doesn't really hit him like Ariane. It's just like something else he likes to do. And he doesn't see it like he doesn't pick up his collar, on things, like just sees it as anything normal. He has impacted one of his closest friends, which is at the middle school at Irene here in La Jolla, so where he started the STEM program. And Ariane has been in robotics camp since he was in 3rd grade. He was able to go to STC for 3rd, 4th, and 5th in robotics camps. And then now he is attending his tech prep at the UTRGV, the university. So this is his 2nd year actually. So his friend has seen a lot of that and a lot of what Ariane has been doing with robotics, and then now with tech prep and the projects that he does with tech prep. And then winning, this competition, it has opened his eyes. So I'm gladly saying that now this is his 1st year at tech prep at the UTRGV as well. And him and Ariane are real good friends, and they're always talking to each other. And Ariane, this project, and do you remember doing this one last year? How did you get it to go so far? And how, giving him little advice and pointers and stuff back and forth has really inspired his closest friend that he has. So I think within the family and community, I think that's what's impacted him the most, is him being able to, have that influence amongst his his friends because they're doing the same thing.
Well, thank you. So, Arian, how does it feel to be a leader? Do you see yourself as a leader? Because you're obviously you influence your classmates with a project. You were talking about that earlier. Your mom talked about how you've influenced your younger brother and your friends, right? Your neighbors and so forth. So, how does it feel? How do you see yourself as a leader?
Well, I feel like everybody expects me to do well in these type of topics. So in a way, it pushes me to try to take it all in and to try harder to get that award or grade.
Well, we thank you so much. We look forward to seeing everything else you do. We look forward to Ms. Reyna, you continuing working with us and encouraging your students next year to participate in Clean SMARTS. And just thank you all for joining us. Are there, okay?
I have one more item I'd just like to bring up. So, and I love it, but I want our wider audience to make sure they're on the same page as us. Several times during this interview, Ms. Garcia, you used the term mijo. And I know it's a term of endearment because I use it in my own home, but just for the wider audience, just to make sure they know what that means, would you like to share just so that our audience listening all over knows what that term is?
Mijo is just it's a Spanish term for son, my son. Mijo, and I say it to everybody, and I even with the adults and mija, my coworkers, and it's a habit. I call everybody mijo and mija, but my boys are mijo is just another term for son. And like Ms. Reyna says, as an educator, like all of my kids in the classrooms, they're all our kids, our children. So I mijo this, mija that in my classroom. It's like the kids who look at me, I'm not your son, I'm not your daughter. And then, yes, but when you're in my class, you guys are all my children, and I'm your mama bear, and I will defend you, and I will care for you just as your mama is. So yes, mijo is just a Spanish term for son, or mija for daughter.
And I love it. It melts my heart when I hear another mother use it or an educator, because I know exactly how you're using it. And it's a term of endearment that we just don't always limit to our own children. So I just wanted to make sure that our entire audience understood what you were saying and the sentiment behind it. So beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And if you would like to learn more about our Clean SMARTS program, go ahead and visit our website, npi.tamu.edu, and you'll be able to find out all the information for last year. And soon we'll be posting the information for this coming year if you'd like to join us. Thank you once again, and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. The Nuclear Power Institute is a joint center with Texas A&M University and the Texas A&M Engineering Experiment Station, and is a component of the Nuclear Engineering and Science Center. For more information about our center or about our guest speaker today, please visit our website at npi.tamu.edu and look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you.